Okay, we're at 7 o'clock. I can call the meeting to order. Are we recording, Dave? Is it live streaming? I don't see you. Where are you? Somehow disappeared on me.
Yes, I'm here, and yes, we are live, Tammy. All set.
All right, so we'll call the meeting to order. We have a couple changes to the agenda. One is that Jody cannot be with us tonight, so we're going to eliminate the number 7 equity update. She submitted a written report, her principal report, and that. And then we are also going to add an executive session after public input and comments. So is everyone good with that? Can I see a thumbs up with the changes to the agenda? Does that work for everybody? Okay, good. So I need a motion to approve the minutes from August 19th, subject to corrections.
So moved.
Thank you, George. Thank you, Liz, for seconding. Are there any corrections to the minutes? Hearing none. All those in favor of approving the minutes, please give me a thumbs up. Is there anyone opposed to that? Speak up. Hearing nobody. Okay, the minutes are approved. We'll move into public input and announcements. So I know that we have a couple people, I think, Dave, is that correct, that want to speak this evening?
That's correct, Tammy. We have 2 folks with us. We've got Art Peterson by video. I see Art, so I know he's here. And then Linda Fontana. Looks like she is with us by phone. So you have Art and then Linda. Okay,
so for those, Art, I know that you've spoken before, you know the way it works. I don't know if Linda has, so just, and for anyone else who would join, so you'll have up to 3 minutes to speak. Please give your full name and where you're from when you speak. I will give you or interrupt you because that's the only way I can do it when we are about 30 seconds left, and I'd ask you to wrap up your comments when your 3 minutes are up. Then you'll yield back to me so we can move on to the next person. So my understanding is, Art, you're first, so good evening.
Okay, good evening.
Are you ready?
Can you hear me?
I can.
Okay. Art Peterson from Clarendon, taxpayer here in town. I have 3 items. It should be quick, shouldn't take 3 minutes. First item I'd like to bring up is this, and I think it was brought up by one of the board members at the last meeting. You folks need to start meeting in person. The Clarendon Select Board meets in person in a little dinky room in the town hall. You folks have 2 gyms and an auditorium. There's 11 of you, or 11 and a few more. Can spread yourself out on the gym floor. We can put the bleachers down, and people can social distance and mask themselves in the stands. There's no reason anymore to do it the way we're doing it, in my opinion. So I would highly recommend that this board do things in a public, in-person manner, and get rid of the online stuff, virtual meetings you're doing. If that can't be accomplished, I think that nothing of substance should be agreed on at a virtual meeting. Certainly nothing where public input is very important, because you just don't have the opportunity. It's just not there. You can say it is, but it's not. Okay, so that's one. Number 2, and it follows along with it. Every time we get on here, there's people out of the district commenting. You've got your own policy. You're violating your own policy as far as who can speak. You folks need, if you want people to come in and speak that are not taxpayers, you need to make a motion, entertain a motion, discuss it, and vote on a motion to do that. That's the only good way to do it. And we just, it's terrible to take testimony from people outside the district. Just not fair to people in the district. And thirdly, I beseech you, I plead with you, I can't tell you strong enough how important it would be to put the flags item to a vote. Not allowing the public to vote on this issue will haunt you. I really think it will. You don't even have to make it, mandatory. What's the word? I can't think of the word, but you don't have to go by the result of the vote. But allowing the taxpayers to vote on this will take away the division that's caused by it. So I highly recommend that you give that serious consideration going forward. And that's all I got.
Okay, thank you, Art. Thank
All
you.
right.
Okay.
Tammy,
Right.
next, excuse me, next we have Linda by phone, and then I do have Gail Gillum's name has been added to the list, but I'm not sure if Gail is video or phone, so we'll just need to straighten that out after Linda's done.
Okay, Linda, are you with us? Welcome.
Yes, I am. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Can you tell us where you're calling from?
Yes, I'm a resident of Shrewsbury for about 20 plus years.
Okay, I'll start the timer. You have 3 minutes. Go ahead.
Okay. Thank you for the opportunity to allow me to share my thoughts and observations. In reviewing the past board minutes and listening to some recent meeting discussions, an issue stands out in regards to diversity. While I see tremendous focus on diversity of physical appearance and identity, I see little regard for diversity of thought and character content. Let's not forget the words of Dr. Martin Luther King, who had a dream that one day his children would not be judged by the color of their skin, but rather by the content of their character. Sadly, in Middle River School District, we have just taken 2 steps back with the last decisions made. Decisions regarding policy and procedure that are being made by the board are not being influenced and driven by facts, but rather by board administration's feelings, past personal history, and in turn, personal bias. It is very important for a board that is enlisted to guide a public body and to make decisions that affect an overall community to remain unbiased and base decisions on facts and evidence, and not on any member's personal history or personal feelings, so to not alienate anyone or influence young, impressionable minds with one's own personal beliefs. It is dangerous when decisions and policies are bias-driven, as it leads to groupthink and a hindering of free thought, and in the end, a total lack of diversity. To date, I have found nothing in the meeting minutes nor heard any testimony as to any evidence of documented cases of racial or identity injustice that have occurred within the Middle River School District. This would mean that the board has made a major community impacting decision based on their own bias and not factual evidence. In essence, now asking children to judge individuals on what they look like outwardly. This is very sad indeed. I expect this board that bases their decisions on facts and on what is actually happening in the school community. Thank you.
Thank you, Linda. Okay.
And Tammy, next we have Gail Gillum, and I'm not sure of Gail's status, if she is with us or if she intends to speak. Gail, are you out there at all and wishing to speak?
Gail, are you there?
Gail, are you with us?
I don't hear that Gail is with us. Do we have any idea if she, no, I see a no. So Gail, are you there? Okay. Evidently Gail is either not able to join us or changed her mind. So we would welcome her to attend our next meeting and speak at that time. Oh, okay. She was undecided whether she was going to speak or not. Okay, so I gather she changed her mind. All right, so if there's anyone else that we have? Okay, hearing no one else, then we will move on. Thank you to everyone who spoke. And I would ask you to leave the meeting and continue to watch, of course, by the live stream. And we are going to go into executive session. So we have 2 reasons this evening to go into executive session. One is for security measures regarding public safety, and that does not need a second motion, a finding. So if someone would make that motion.
So moved.
Thank you, George. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, John. Okay, thank you. And then the second one, we do need to make the double findings. So we have some attorney-client communication information to share with the board, and the discussion of that in public comment would put the board at a disadvantage. I would assume that you would agree with that. Would someone like to make that motion?
So moved.
Thank you, George. Is there a second on that? Thank you, Liz. And then we need a motion to move into executive session for the attorney-client communication. Would someone like to make that? Thank you, George. And a second? Thank you, Liz. Okay, so it is 7:10. We're going to go into executive session. I would ask everyone to log out, for board members, log out and log back into the other link that Dave provided that said possible executive session link. And when you do that, can you please make sure that you are all in a place? If you have headphones, put them in so that no one else can hear what we're talking about. If not, can you please make sure that you're in a secure location, because to protect the confidentiality of the executive session. Anything else?
Tammy,
Yes.
if I can just add for our viewers on YouTube, if you're watching this, this meeting will stay on YouTube in kind of suspended animation. And as soon as the board is done in executive session, all of these tiles should pop back up and we'll reconvene the meeting at that point. So you're in the right place. The board members and I are just leaving for a bit.
Okay. Yes, George.
I would hope that my fellow board members might give me a round of applause for my incredible navigation of this nonsense, because of all the troubles I had earlier, I'm quite proud of myself.
You were back before me. You're quick. Boy, oh boy. So we're back out of executive session 7:26, no action taken. We will move on to central office reports. So Dave.
Yeah, and Tammy, I just want to acknowledge I don't see Doug back with us yet, and I'm just trying to do a quick visual screen if we're missing anyone else. But while we're waiting on that, my central office report was relatively brief, and it was essentially extending thanks for the work of the board this summer. There's been a lot of leadership exhibited in a challenging time for our world and a challenging time here locally. And I just expressed my thanks to the board in writing for that. I'm happy to respond to any questions you may have for me, but I'd really like focus tonight to be on our principals with further updates for, reopening prep for school, which opens next Tuesday officially. Happy to take any questions you might have.
Any questions for Dave? Hearing none. Is Brian going to join us? Are you there, Brian?
He's here. He may be with us by phone.
Yep, I'm here. Not a bunch in my report either. It's it's been 2 weeks and we've been moving fast. All the things we talked about last time, making progress, and still a lot to do before next week, but we're getting there. Any questions from anybody?
I don't see anybody waving there. Oh, Adrian has a question, I think. Yes.
I just had a quick question on whether we feel comfortable that everybody in the district has access after, I know huge amounts of work was being done
Sure.
During spring, but are we comfortable with that?
No, there are going to be people that don't have access, and there are going to be people that we struggle to get access. I think, some of it comes down to location. Some of it comes down to finances. We may have somebody who lives right outside of VTEL fiber, but is not willing to sign up for it. They may not have the resources, or they may prioritize resources differently. We can make every effort to connect people, but yeah, I'm not gonna tell you that everybody's connected and we're fine. I think our district is very lucky. Actually, I've got a map that the Public Service Department put out. Their priority areas for trying to solve connection problems. There are very few in our area because our area is very well. So I'll say connected, but I don't mean that people are all connected. We have the infrastructure, but we can't guarantee that everybody has signed up and is subscribing to that infrastructure.
Okay, thank you.
Liz, you had a question for Brian?
Yeah, I have a question for Brian, and I just thought of this. The legislature at some point, a year, maybe 2 years ago, bought a whole bunch of 2G microcells.
Yep.
That I don't think anything was ever done with that equipment. And I'm just wondering if we should find out where that equipment is, if it's being used, and would it be helpful?
Sure. My experience would be that 2G is going to be a struggle for most of our folks. What we've been trying to hook people up to is 4G. And even then not ideal. It's really not. But that is what we're trying to work out for our folks. We do have the CARES Act funding that is coming our way. We're trying to use to access those resources too. You know, we're going to keep working with people. What I don't want to tell the board is, yeah, we're absolutely 100% fine, because I know that's not going to be the truth.
Okay. Thank you, Brian. Any other questions for Brian? Hearing none. Thank you, Brian. So we'll move on to Andrew. Is Andrew with us?
Yep, I'm right here. Good to see everyone.
Sorry. Oh, there you are.
Yeah. You know, it's always a fun game to find the tile. So as I mentioned in the report, the major focus for these last several weeks has really been on all of the in-service days. So they're all blending together, but last Monday, not this past Monday, but the Monday before, was our new teacher orientation that we actually did in person in the auditorium. And so it was great to have everyone there. It was a very small group of new teachers, so social distancing was pretty easy to do in the auditorium. And then the focus has been on just kind of getting everyone up to speed with regards to really our general curriculum and instruction approach for the fall with regards to modules and all the pieces that go into that. And wrapped up in service on Monday, providing some time for grade level and content area groups to collaborate. And so a lot of work has gone into those in-service days. A lot of facilitators from grade levels and content areas leading their groups in various conversations, various activities. And I'd say overall that things went really well. We provided some high quality workshops on things such as Google Classroom and Seesaw and how to make videos to post to students, among other things, in addition to social emotional learning and supporting students with regards to that. And so I feel it was, you know, a really good in-service. It was a little, I wouldn't say challenging, but a little, I guess, just odd, you know, doing something that normally you'd be standing in front of a crowd of, you know, a couple hundred folks with a microphone, and instead you're just talking into a computer. So that took a little getting used to. Right now, I'm in the process of revising some guidance documents with regards to our module approach, in addition to developing some documents specifically targeted at parents to help them better understand kind of our overall approach to online learning. I know each elementary school and high school has their own handbooks with regards to remote learning. What I'm looking to put together is more specifics on just helping our parents understand the overall flow of things. And we're also working to put together some training for parents on the use of Google Classroom and Seesaw and some other kind of basic technology pieces. So still some work to do, get everything squared away, but feeling pretty good about the direction that we're going. Any questions?
Okay. Great. Questions for Andrew?
Not a question, but Andrew, connect with me afterward because I'm building a lot of that stuff for another district.
Okay.
So we might be able to share.
Great. Will do.
Okay. Anyone else? Thank you, Andrew. So Coral. Hi.
Hi, everyone. So my report again was fairly short, but we are just about ready. We're putting finishing touches on bus routes and transportation stuff and personnel needs for Tuesday when our students step foot back into the building for the first time. So this week has been a lot of just parent contact, answering last minute questions, sort of coordinating some last minute changes, trying to just make sure that parents are as up to date as they can be on the rules and regulations that we'll be following when their children are in the building. But other than that, we are just about there, and we will definitely be ready for our Tuesday start.
Excellent. Any questions for Coral? Coral, how many children do you expect? How many?
We have confirmed 70 total. So we'll see 70 kids. On any given day, we'll have 70 kids through the doors, either in one session or another, but total.
Thank you. Any other questions for Coral? Okay. Thank you. Gary, how are you?
Good. How are you tonight?
Good.
I really don't have much to add to the written report. We're feeling like we're ready. We're anxious to get going, and we're just going to have to remain flexible and just adapt. So I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Anyone have any questions for Gary? I don't see any. Thank you, Gary. Oh, Adrian does. There you go.
I was just wondering, since we have such a reduced need for bus drivers right now, how are we dealing with keeping those guys sort of on the hook? Are we, does everybody have some kind of a route or?
Yeah. Surprisingly, the way things are working out between the IEP runs and the Stafford runs, everybody's busy.
Okay.
The routes are entirely different, but there's multiple different runs during the day, and everybody has something to do.
Excellent. Thank you. Okay. So, hi, Carrie. How are you?
Hi there. Fine. Nice to see everyone. I had a fairly short report also, emphasized two different points. One is our learning support program that we're getting ready for that'll start September 14th. I'm not sure what the enrollment for that so far has been. We just barely started. Again, we're doing trainings and we're really excited about being able to offer hopefully 70 to 80 different elementary level students some remote learning support. The second paragraph there related to at the time of that writing, just thinking about a little bit of financial stress, both with unpredictability in the next year. We're very dependent on childcare subsidy, on fees, and just the not knowing. So I'm trying to be very proactive and strategic with that. But actually, I have something to add. This past week, we were actually invited to extend our 21st Century Grant one additional year. Normally, this is our 10th year. That's normally the very end of this. And so that was a very pleasant surprise that would extend the grant of about $185,000 into FY22. So that was very nice news to kind of take the pressure. And it happened not long after I wrote this about the pressure being kind of on financially. So that was good news.
Excellent news. Any questions for Carrie? Oh, Adrian, go ahead.
Sorry, since I'm the only one. That's fantastic. Thank you, Carrie. $200,000 is nothing to sneeze at.
No,
yeah.
No.
Thank you for that. Yeah, we were thinking again with your local budget, there's very little money right now in the local budget that goes toward these programs, but we've really worked to build this system that we have right now. And so it certainly has taken some of the pressure off. Thank you for that.
Dave.
Yeah, what Carrie's not telling you, and just for the audience, the 21st Century Grant funds our after-school programming and all the childcare that goes with that. What she's not telling you, though, is the way that you get asked if you would like to extend for another year is by having a really high-caliber program that's looked upon kindly across the state as being well-organized, well-run, good outcomes, et cetera. So kudos do go to Carrie and her entire team for making that happen, and it's because of that good work that we're able to extend that for another year.
Thank you.
Excellent. Liz, go ahead.
I just want to say that's fabulous news, Carrie. Thank you so much. And thank you to everyone involved in that work. And may I ask that we put that out on social media because that's something to celebrate.
Good point. Excellent. Yes. Okay. Yes. Good. Okay. Thank you. Any other questions for Carrie? Okay. Stan, how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Good. Good.
My report was really short since I did not send one out because we had a finance meeting on Monday, so I did not duplicate the efforts. So I did send that out in an email, I think, a week ago to everybody. I don't know if anybody has any questions in regards to that report that was sent out about a week ago. One thing I can report on with the COVID-19 funds or grants that are out there this week, we did apply for 3 of those grants. The CRF funds, we put in a grant application for a little over $128,000. The ESSER grant, we put in a application for a little over $184,000. We did summer food program grant application for a little over $6,000. And today we got approved to do an application for FEMA, which is a public request for funds. I expect that one to be somewhere in the $10,000 to $15,000 range. And that's about all I have.
Great. Thank you for doing that work, Stan. Any questions for Stan? Okay. Thank you. Okay, we can move on to our principal updates. And I'm going to switch things up and start with Tyler. Hi, Tyler. How are you?
That is switching things up. Thank you.
Yeah, I figured you always go last. You could go first this time.
It's funny you say it. I was thinking about it. I'm like, okay, I know the order, and I'm okay with that. I'm good. How's everyone else tonight? It's nice to see everyone. I will say that we've been busy. We've been really busy. We've had a ton of meetings. We've really working towards two consistent themes at Mill River right now. And I use the word consistent because those are part of the themes: consistent expectations and consistent communication. I just did a quick count. Every teacher has shared their Google Classroom with Jen McElmore and myself. And I did a quick count. Granted, I might be off by a couple, but I have 180 different Google Classrooms in my Google Classroom account. So that accounts for every single class that our kids are going to be accessing at Mill River this fall. And I can tell you one thing, they're all exactly set up the same way. So if our parents are going in and looking at what their students are doing, they can click on the classwork tab, they can click on the stream tab, and it's all set up exactly the same. So I mean, that consistent expectations there is going to go miles for parents. And for students. I mean, it's all right there. It's all perfectly laid out. So I'm really happy with that. And I think that's something that's going to do really well for our students, just for keeping connected at the most basic level. Consistent communication we've been talking about. We're talking about kids with virtual office hours and meeting times. So I think we are really geared up. We are ready to go. Our teachers are ready to go. All the meetings we've had over the last couple of weeks have been very productive. I had a faculty meeting today, and Andrew was funny where you say he's trying to count the tiles of who's talking. We had a meeting today with 78 or 79 people on, so you can imagine how small those little tiles are. It was hard to see who was talking and who was not. But again, we are ready to go. We just had the last 2 days. We had sessions for kids to come and pick up materials and drop materials off from last year. So a little semblance of normal, which was kind of fun the last couple of days to see all the kids. And then especially tonight, or excuse me, at the end of the day today and tonight, right before the board meeting, we had a session, and we had a lot of our new 7th grader students coming in to pick up their Chromebooks and what have you. So I got to meet a lot of new kids and see a lot of familiar faces. So, I think you can see the enthusiasm or hear the enthusiasm in my voice that we are ready to go and we are excited, and it's going to be a good year.
Great. Thank you. Any questions for Tyler? George?
Yes. Specific to the high school, I want to follow up on Adrian's notion of access for students. What's the picture at the high school in that regard?
George, good question. We are looking at probably about half a dozen, 4 to 6 students that do not have access. And we've already been in contact with families. And it's kind of a mixed mash. Some like Brian said, are against the idea of having internet access in their household. Some can't afford, and some it's access or availability of access. We are working with those parents, and we are working to make sure that they have the materials they need so that they can participate in classes, albeit, I don't know how to put this, a remote participation, if you will. But we are in constant communication with those families, and we know who they are, and we are actively working with them to make sure they can participate and they get the material and they are able to engage with that material, albeit in a slightly different way.
Great.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Adrian, go ahead.
Has anybody been able to suggest to parents? I know the public libraries have opened to a certain extent, and whether or not they would be available places for, if we only have 6 kids, whether we could try and place them somewhere there. I know like in Shrewsbury, we have the upstairs of the library, There's no computer up there that I know of. There's computers downstairs, but I mean, in terms of that availability, it might be possible to work something out with the libraries.
It is. It's definitely possible. It's a great suggestion. Kids are pretty resourceful. It's interesting where last spring, and I just shared this as a side note, but I literally had a meeting one time with a family that has spotty connections. They were sitting in McDonald's parking lot because there was Wi-Fi there. So I mean, again, I don't want to rely on McDonald's for our Wi-Fi, but kids are resourceful, and there are definitely community resources that we can tap into for that. So that's a great suggestion. I'll definitely look into that. So thank you.
I also just wanted to point out, in response to Adrian's question and Tyler's response, we do actually have some families in the district who philosophically are just opposed to internet connectivity. They, for personal, philosophical, religious reasons, whatever it may be, they do not want technology access in their home. So I personally am working closely with a family right now of multiple children who fall into that boat, who probably take up a good portion of the list that don't have connectivity. So that's also something that we're trying to navigate is delivering that instruction when there's a belief that the technology is not to be in the home.
Yeah, I totally get that, and it's great that you're working through that.
And the nice thing is, and as I said before, it's only really 4 to 6 kids that we are working with, at least at the high school level. So the list is small, and we have the means to take care of them in an alternative way.
Good to hear. Thank you. Any other questions for Tyler? Okay. Thank you. We'll move on to the elementary schools. Maureen, do you want to start us off?
Okay, my microphone's on. We have been really busy. We're doing, we're trying to keep it simple enough for parents and kids to not be overwhelmed with the amount of material. We do have a few kids who parents who philosophically do not want internet in their home, but that's 1 or 2 families, and that's it. And we're providing them with paper copies. Everyone else has access. And the teachers have been incredible in being flexible and figuring out things on the fly, but we're all set at this point. And a lot of that, I just want to give credit to Joe B also, because he was on the spot all the time, helping us out with the electronics. So him and Brian, we couldn't have done it without him, and we're really grateful. So we're doing fine. We're ready to roll.
Excellent. Thank you, Maureen. Any questions for Maureen? Okay, thank you. Oh, Liz, go ahead.
I just want to put out there, because this jogged my memory of teaching before, widespread technology was accessible. Handheld tape recorders to send anything home that needs to be spoken are really inexpensive. So I just want to put that out there.
Excellent. Good idea. Thank you. Was there someone else that wanted to say something? I wasn't sure. No? Okay. So we'll move on to Fred. I see you in my corner there. Go ahead, Fred. How are you?
Yes, I'm doing well. Thank you. Hello, everyone. I could sum up my report with one sentence. The kids are magic. If we had this conversation 2 days ago, I think it would be very different. It's been, as Andrew said, there was a lot that was covered. It was pretty intense the last 10 days, with teachers getting ready and sending out their welcome letters and learning new things. But we are all caught up. And yesterday, I think people were dragging a little bit, or Monday, people were dragging a little bit. And I think their spirits were a little low. And then we had our meet and greets, and the kids came in, and the teachers got a chance to see them. And I, for the last probably couple of weeks, I haven't slept through the night. And after the meet and greet, I slept like a baby. I woke up this morning, there was a thread going on with the teachers that they were excited, they were enthused again. And today they were laughing and joking, and they all feel ready. I think our meetings with the kids went extremely well. They seemed a little skittish because they haven't seen us in 6 months. But for the most part, they were excited to be there too. And, the teachers have put out, they all have their flexible learning modules ready for the first week or two. And we shared that with the parents. So I think the parents feel good. They feel like they're ready to go. We've been hustling like crazy to make sure everybody has a computer. Brian did a map with Joe to make sure that everyone was covered, and everyone is. We have one family that we're still working with, but for the most part, everybody who wants to be on, and everybody seems to want to be on, they're on. So again, from Monday to today, it was 180 degrees, and I'm excited again too, and we're ready to roll.
Excellent. Any questions for Fred? Okay. Thank you, Fred. Dan, how are you?
I'm doing mighty fine. How's everyone tonight?
We are well.
Good. So I've been loving working with the staff, and I feel blessed to have so many willing and able to jump on board into these meetings long before their work year calendar contract would start. And I greatly appreciate that. And so I think that helped lighten the load slightly the last week as they jumped back into the full swing of things. But I'd have to give a shout out to Andrew, Brian, Dave, everyone, Coral, who got everything going. I know Jody even was running a lot of PD. We had our tech folks doing that. And so kind of the way I assumed things would go as we built on through the last week and the beginning of this week is the way it turned out, where teachers came in with some trepidation. They started to get their head wrapped around a few more things and understand kind of the how at a deeper level. And then they were getting the support from the breakout sessions that were specific to the needs that were identified in last year. And I think it's just been a phenomenal rollout. And then I would say, to take it the next step further, engaging with my entire staff all at once and seeing them face to face and be able to interact. It was virtual, which was a little odd for, a welcome back meeting. But it was phenomenal. And having the breakout sessions after that with small groups of the staff working together, I was able to sit in on some of those small groups. And the one thing that really stood out to me that I'm just proud to be a part of the Wildcat family is you could tell the sincerity from each staff member looking after one another and addressing certain people who had the deer in the headlights look on their face of, are you understanding this? Do you need any more support in this? And then being able to help them or point them in the right direction. So I could sit here all night and start giving individual shout outs of every person that's contributed in one way or another. It's just been phenomenal. So I appreciate the work and effort they put into it. I'm excited. We are, it almost sounds like behind the eight ball on the meet and greets, but tomorrow we've got our first set of meet and greets, and then Friday we'll wrap it up. And so it'll be nice. I look forward to meeting the families in the flesh and being able to give them some air high fives and things like that. So we've been just trying to keep them updated, reminding them of the time slots so we don't have everyone show up at once, but they come to their assigned time. And we're grateful for all the work that everyone's put into this, and I know it's going to pay off in dividends. The one thing that I feel I've been kind of reiterating with my staff is we're going to get through this together. And just seeing the way that they've been interacting in these meetings and the whole group and the small groups, they're in it together. So I've just been trying to acknowledge that, praise them, pump them up. And when we keep this going, I guarantee we're going to have a successful year. So even in the hurdles that are ahead of us, we're talking about access, and some may not have access, but some may not be accessing. And there's all going to be different reasons, for personal reasons, work-related reasons. But the staff, they're ready. Like Tyler pointed out, we've got office hours. Some teachers, all the teachers have a flex schedule, so they're able to work with some families later in the evening. And no one's going to slip through the cracks, and that's been our focus. Is this first week rolling out, contact with everyone, no matter what, at all costs. And so we're going to make sure that no one is kind of hiding out there and trying to avoid anything, which I can't anticipate that being a problem anyway, because at this point it seems like everyone's just excited to return. So that's all I've got right now in a nutshell. Any questions?
Any questions for Dan? No, thank you. All right. So, and Jody's not with us tonight, and she submitted a written report. So we will move on to Dave, reopening update. Oh, George, what, did you have a question for Dan?
I had a comment for all of the principals that have spoken, and Jody that hasn't. I talked with her yesterday. I suspect that Len would join me in this. I would like to say thank you, because I have a notion of the kind of work and stress and activities that you've been going through to pull this off. Congratulations. Good job.
Thank you, George. Well said. Okay, Dave.
Yeah, so just in terms of overall reopening, you've heard the details that are critically important. That's what's going on in our buildings, and thanks to our principals for sharing all of that tonight. I do want to point out in Jody's written report that she sent to you, she did share a piece about our equity training that we did this week with staff. It's a part of a multi-layered and multi-day equity training process we're engaging in. So I'll just read this out loud for the sake of the meeting. As we kicked off our 2021 school year with in-service days, we dove right into addressing the action steps outlined in our 3-year equity plan. Andrew Jones and Jody spent a morning with all district educators sharing that 3-year equity plan and our professional development plan for the year. Worked with staff to provide training in the use of our district equity literacy overlay tool. Let me pause there. What that is a resource to use to look at the materials that we already have, the curriculum we already have, the things that we've always been teaching, and to identify where there are gaps in terms of how we're navigating issues of equity with the materials that we already access in classrooms. So getting back to her piece, educators worked in small groups to utilize that tool and look at sample lessons and dive deep into discussions about equity and representation of different groups in our curriculum. That time ended with a virtual Q&A, and survey data was collected that indicated that people are excited about continuing this work and excited about what comes next. So positive piece on that equity work, which is a significant part of our professional development planning for the year. Other just really big picture things Stan touched on, we're working on pinning down financial pieces in a number of different areas. You know, in the finance realm, we'll talk about waiting on the legislature to decide how to navigate the education fund gap. We are looking at all the different grant funding sources that Stan addressed, basically let's just call it the coronavirus relief money, and getting our applications in for those funds to pay for a lot of the work that has been going on. And then I would like to just let you know, you're already aware of this, but we are working on solidifying our plans for providing lunches for our students on an ongoing basis. Just to give you ballpark figures, we've fed between 200 and 250 kids a day from March up until the current day. And the federal government has extended the waiver that will allow us to continue to serve meals to all children aged 18 and under in our community. But what we don't have yet is the firm details from the state in terms of where all the T's and the I's are. Stan and I will meet tomorrow to get some of that sorted out so that I can communicate clearly with families. But we do envision something that looks like what we've been doing, a couple pickup days per week, multiple days of meals provided for families that need them. And we're looking forward to likely adding Shrewsbury and Tinmouth as pickup locations. So a family from Tinmouth could pick up for all of their children at the Tinmouth school as opposed to having to go down to Mill River for a pickup. So working on getting those details in place. But that's all I have on a reopening update at this point in time.
Okay, any questions for Dave? Okay, thank you. We will move on to, we're going to do some adjustments to the adjustments in timing for our district and board goals. And what do you have to share with us, Dave?
After I unmute myself, I did share with the board kind of the back end document with some of our internal goals that we're working on with some of that internal data. Really, I just wanted to give the board a public update. If you recall, the goals that we adopted as a district call for a goal review presentation from me in April and October. Obviously, because of COVID and the dynamics that we were all looking at in April, that April update did not occur. October can occur, and I would like to deliver that to the board either at the first or second meeting of October. Second might be preferable just because it gives a little bit more time for some of the details to settle in. But what I've been doing is looking at our 5 board goals and identifying anything that may need to be adjusted slightly due to us not having data sources from this past spring. For example, some of the things were based around student performance and achievement data, et cetera, making some adjustments there, but also accounting for the fact that quite a few of the goals and the sub goals underneath them have already been accomplished, especially a lot of the work that was occurring at the board level. When we look at community engagement plans, equity policies, building wellness plans into our policies, and also working on that in a negotiations context, the board has done a heck of a job in knocking off some of the goals that we laid out there for ourselves. So what I'm working on now is an update, making sure that everything's aligned, and I would like to deliver you a presentation in October that lets you know just how we did last year up to current date and projects things forward a little bit. If that's okay when we get to agenda building, Tammy, I'd appreciate that.
Sure, that would be great. Thank you. Any questions for Dave on that? Comments? No. Okay. Thank you for that, Dave. And then we'll move on to board committee descriptions and charge approvals. So Anne had shared with us the policy and, the board committee descriptions. Policy was the first one I saw. And so everyone had a chance, I hope, to review that document. Yes, thumbs up. And do we want to individually approve them, or do we want just one motion to approve them? Are there any comments, changes? So I will, hearing none, seeing nobody, everyone's shaking their hair. I entertain a motion to approve those descriptions so that we can put them up on the website. George.
Yes, I would move that we approve the descriptions as a group. I think that we all realize that if adjustments need to occur as time goes on, that we should be able to do that fairly readily. So that would, I move that we approve as a group.
Excellent. Is there a second?
I'll second. Yep,
Thank
Adrian
you,
seconds.
Adrian. Okay, great. Any discussion on them? George? No? Okay, hearing none. All those in favor of approving them as presented to us, please give me a thumbs up. Anyone opposed? Please speak up. Hearing none, they are approved. And Dave, you'll see that they get put up on the website. Thank you. Okay, we can move on to committee business then. So Len, you're first with personnel.
Hi there. So personnel did meet this evening. We do have one request for board action, and that's to approve a contract for Todd Gilman at 1.0 full-time equivalency as a 5th grade elementary teacher at Wallingford Elementary School. And I would make that a motion.
Okay, is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, George. Is there any discussion on that? All those in favor of approving Todd Gilman as the 5th grade teacher at Wallingford Elementary, please say aye. Give me a thumbs up.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Please speak up. Anyone abstaining? Please speak
I would
up.
like to abstain. This is BJ.
Okay, thanks, BJ. We would welcome Todd then. So welcome him to the Mill River community.
Just a couple of other things, and then we can move on. I just wanted to make public some information that we're still hurting for bus drivers and custodians. So if you want to get the word out there, if you know of anyone, particularly the custodians, it's a good thing that we're not back in real time because we need some custodians. So go ahead, Liz.
I just want to ask that we put that out on social media so we can spread it around.
Okay. Yeah, it's, you know, I know, as Gary said, the bus drivers that we have we're keeping them busy, and that's good. But again, we knew we were short. We could possibly be shorthanded. We also have a couple of instructional coaches positions that are posted, student assistance program counselor that's posted, a school counselor for grades 7 through 12 with an IEP focus. And then in mid-October, we'll be looking for a Mill River Union music long-term sub. So those are just FYIs. We did discuss to some extent the superintendent evaluation, and we are continuing to work on that. And our next meeting will be October something. The first Wednesday.
6th, October 6th.
There you go, October 6th at 6 o'clock. So
No,
I'm done.
October 7th. Sorry, that's my fault. See, don't rely on me. October 7th.
So it will be October 7th at 6 o'clock.
Okay, thank you, Len. BJ, we'll move on to policy.
Okay, so we had actually, I think we had a pretty good policy. We still talked about how we want to reorganize and move forward and evaluate. So what we're going to start doing is we're actually going to start tagging all of the policies, ones that need to be done regularly once a year, ones that can be looked at 3 times a year, whether they're a VSBA model or whether they are not. And so I'm actually kind of excited about being able to put all that together. And so we have a better plan as to what we want to evaluate when. That was part of it. We do a quick little Google training or some type of training at each one, take about 10 minutes. And we played with a tool called Google Meet nicknames, which might be something that Andrew and Brian want to also explore, because I think it is very helpful for the school I work for. And actually, I think it's going to work out for the policy committee to have a good single link to go to. We do have some policies coming up that we need to review. And for that reason, we're going to have an extra meeting this month. And that is going to be happening, calendar.
The 15th.
Okay, the 15th, and it's going to be at 6 o'clock.
Oh.
And that's so everybody can make it. Adrian, is that going to be okay with you?
Yeah, it's fine.
Okay.
I just had it at 5, but I'm just
that was the plan until I talked to other members who
That's fine.
requested it to be later. So we have that meeting, and then we'll have, I think at that meeting we may talk about changing the regular time to possibly in front of the second meeting in the month at 6, just because of conflicts. So we'll talk about that then. And yeah, I think that's it. So
Okay, thank you. Negotiations, Adrian, do you have anything for us?
I don't remember when I reported out, but we have a meeting on the 21st, Monday at 3:30.
Okay.
Continue. That was
okay.
it.
Thank you. Sorry, I was writing. Okay, John, buildings and grounds.
We did not meet as school has not yet started, but I think by October we probably will. So our next meeting would be October 6th at 6 p.m.
Okay.
Actually, I'm going to quickly interrupt. John, how many people are still on policy and on buildings and ground?
Good question. I'm not sure. I don't know who's on policy right now.
Yeah. Adrian,
the makeup of the buildings and grounds has not changed.
I frequently go to both. I mean, I don't know if I'm on both.
That was just one of those quick questions I was trying to think of. Okay. I'm off.
All right. Okay. So you're done, John? Sorry. Yes. Community engagement. Maria is not with us. I don't think that the group met. Does anyone that's in that group have anything that needs to be reported? I don't think so. No. Okay, we'll move on to finance. Liz, you're up. Unmute.
Okay, unmuted. I have the following orders for approval this evening. I have the following pay orders from the general fund. I have a pay order in the amount of $3,395.95. Also from the general fund, a pay order in the amount of $1,308. Also from the general fund, a pay order in the amount of $223,039.78. Also from the general fund, a pay order in the amount of $1,550.98. And lastly, from food service, a pay order in the amount of $17,379.95 for a total of $246,000. Okay, the later it gets, the less able I am to speak. Okay, payroll. I have the following payroll orders. Dated August 28th, I have a payroll order in the amount of $11,546.03. Also dated August 28th, 2020, I have a payroll order in the amount of $504,004.36. And lastly, dated September 1st, I have a payroll order in the amount of $4,382.67 for a total of $519,933.06. And I move that we approve the payroll and pay orders as presented.
Second. Thank you.
Second.
Discussion. George.
Yes, I reviewed the payroll and pay orders earlier and found everything to be in order. I did have a couple of comments regarding the pay orders. The first one is my ongoing mention of the cost of healthcare, just so that we all keep that in mind. We put out a total of $223,039.78 for healthcare in this last round. The other thing that I wanted to chat about, I don't know, it's a concern of mine. We've spent, I think, something in the neighborhood of $4,000 for Amazon products, which is okay, except that I would encourage everyone to consider wherever and whenever possible to use local vendors in terms of the economy, the situation that we're in. I mean, it's important, I think, to keep our local businesses here if we can. And that's it.
Completely agree with that, George. Thank you so much. Both of those items.
Doug, do you have anything? Yep. Unmute.
I thought I hit that button. Yeah, nothing really major. It's kind of hard to follow George for something like that unless you know, it's like a puppy trailing him a little bit. So nothing I found of consequence.
Okay. Any other discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor of approving the pay orders and payroll as read, please give me a thumbs up. Anyone opposed, please say no. Hearing none. Anyone abstaining? Okay. Pay orders and payroll are approved. And then we move to transact other legal business. George. Anything?
Nothing for him?
I don't know. Go ahead, Doug. You can speak.
I got something. The last board meeting, I mentioned at the end of the meeting that I had something I wasn't going to do that. A couple of weeks ago, the more I've been thinking about it, the more I think I have to do this. Some 8 to 10 weeks ago, we started on a journey that had both sides, us and the taxpayers, having very major disagreements. 16-year-old junior had a request, although other things have been involved, it has been centered on a piece of cotton and nylon fabric painted and stitched with letters that have numerous meanings for each person. It was stated that the board had been discussing for the last 2 years about raising a flag with that particular phrase weaved on it. Although I and others researched the minutes from the school boards themselves from the past, we haven't found any reference to that. Not an issue, but I think the board acted very quickly for this. Thus, I move that an ad hoc committee be formed consisting of board members, teaching staff, and public members to research and debate whether or not the BLM flag and LGBTQ flag should be raised or possibly on a banner hung on the wall or not be allowed at our schools altogether. Like I said, I was going to do this both last week, 2 weeks ago, and I was also going to do it tonight. The computer wouldn't cooperate with me to get it in. I'm trying to push myself and maybe others to understand we need to stop making instant decisions. I was going to give somebody or everybody here at least 45 minutes to an hour to think, well, what does he want to do? I think it needs to be done. And there's another motion that's going to come after this if this one passes.
Okay. Is there a second to that motion?
I'll second for the purposes of discussion.
Okay. Discussion. Any discussion? Anyone? Hearing none. Oh, go ahead, George.
Yeah, I just would like to repeat something that I've thought about in terms of sometimes it's better to give a little to get a lot. I guess that's about it. Thank you.
Okay. Any other? John.
So one point of clarification regarding the Black Lives Matter and the 2-year time cycle. The equity committee that was formed 2.5 years ago started with a basic question that I asked David, which is the day after Montpelier flew the Black Lives Matter flag, I sent him an email asking him how we can do this at our schools. And that was how the equity committee formed. And that was 2.5 years ago. And that's where that number came from. That question, that raising of the Black Lives Matter flag in Montpelier, and the question I asked got the equity committee started, which has been discussing all of these issues of equity in the schools and leading up to the decision to fly the Black Lives Matter flag. It is not just a piece of cotton with printing on it. It is a symbol of support for people of color in our community and our schools. Trying to say that it is just a piece of cotton is, you could say the same thing about any other flag anywhere in the country or in the world. None of that's true. All of these flags have deeper meaning than just the words that are printed on them.
Okay. Len, go ahead.
Just, I think, from my perspective, and I believe I had said this before, my concern has always been how quickly we made the decision the night at that board meeting. And I believe I've also said at various times that we sort of put the cart before the horse. And again, I'm not opposed to the Black Lives Matter flag in its essence, or the pride flag in its essence. My concern is, and when you hear from community members, many of them are not opposed to the flag. What they don't like is that their input was not, they did not have the opportunity for input until after the decision was made. And I think Doug said that, but I just want to reiterate, for me, that's the key. I go back to Andy Richards Peel, who always said, you know, when we brought something that night to get approval, and Andy would say, you can't expect me to vote on this when I've just started to look at it right now. So I think, you know, that's the part that bothered me and continues to bother me, to be very honest.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else? Doug, go ahead.
Just a clarification of what I'm hoping will happen. Having an ad hoc committee would actually put a point where the board would actually see what was discussed almost as a set of minutes. Situation number 2 is that I would like at least 2 board members, preferably one who is for and one is against. The teaching side of things, I'd like to find out what we're doing to help out students of color within the district. So it would preferably be an elementary staff member and possibly one from the high school. The third one would be a couple of people from the public, also preferably one positive, one negative. I think once we get a discussion going, we can have a decision. I'm not looking to say to the board that whatever the committee may come up with, the board has to follow. It would purely be a recommendation, and it's there. And I think we need to get going somewhat soon if it is approved. There's a deadline coming up for the flags that are going to be raised. I'm not sure if the others know the date that happens. I know I do, but I'm not going to share with that. I don't think that's my responsibility. It should be left to the committee to do it that way. I don't know. I mean, I think the Black Lives Flag matter, Black Lives Flag actually, is different from what it is now from what it was 2 years ago. I think with the death of Mr. Floyd, it created an issue that the Black Lives Flag, along with Antifa and a number of others, spun themselves around a little bit and gotten more of a political type of situation. But they're causing issues that need to be stopped, and for some reason they're not being stopped. I'm thinking that if we could get Black Lives Matter people involved in the schools, we could actually make a difference there. I'm not sure if our current member from that organization is going to be around much more. But I'd like to get it, if we can get it going, get it done within enough time frame to maybe have a decision for you by the time of the next board meeting coming along in 2 weeks.
Okay. Any other discussion? Shall we? EJ, go ahead.
I'm just wondering how this will differ from the flag committee that Jody already has.
Good question.
Does Jody have anybody from the public on there?
I do believe she does.
Yes,
Good.
I'm seeing heads raised.
We need to be more that way. I hate making. I'm like Andy. I'm going to start abstaining from voting if I'm not insured with some information within a couple of days before the meeting comes up. It's crazy to try to make a decision when you're just off the top of your head. It's too much of stuff going on in my head anyway to make that decision quickly.
Okay, Liz.
Doug, I didn't understand what you just said, something about a BLM member not being around. Could you clarify that for me, please?
I can't clarify that. I have rumors, and I'm not going to expound from that from the rumors standpoint.
Okay.
Unless somebody makes that decision to say something.
Okay, so I think that we should vote on the motion. So all those in favor of Doug's motion to form an ad hoc committee with regard to the flags, the BLM and the pride flag, please give me a thumbs up. That's 2. I have Doug, I have Len. Am I correct? Is that it? All those, and George, so I have 3. All those opposed, give me a thumbs up. Okay, I have Andy, I have John, I have Amy, I have Adrian, I have Liz. Okay. Clearly the motion has failed. Okay. Is there any other legal business? George.
Yes, being a person that likes to end on a positive note, I'd like to share one with folks if you'd like. Yesterday afternoon, I'm going to do it anyway. Yesterday afternoon, I had about 4 o'clock, I think it was. We had somebody show up at the door, a very excited young lady that wanted to see her friend Skylar. And so they got together, and a few minutes later, they came and said, "We would like you to come with us." I said, "Okay." And what was going on was this young lady who has been recently hired as a teacher in Shrewsbury wanted to go and see her school. So we drove up to Shrewsbury, drove into the parking lot. Her first thought, or her first voice that she came up with was, "Look at the slide." So she was quite excited to see the slide. And there were some teachers there. And she was invited in and was had a tour of the building and had a chance to spend about a half an hour talking about whatever. And Skylar and I were just sitting out on the chairs. I love those chairs, by the way, on the walk, Adrian. Those are just super. So we sat there and kibitzed for a while, and Jody showed up, and we had a nice conversation about the black flag, would you believe? So that's the positive note. Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you, George. Doug. Yeah.
I have one question, and maybe this is for Dave. I've got two things 1 minute apart for an invitation for executive session starting tomorrow. One is listed as a special meeting, and then it's executive session. Are these different numbers, different things that we get into?
Yeah, I could answer that. We have to open the meeting publicly and publicly go into executive session, and that's why there's the two links.
Okay, right, great, thank you.
Okay, no problem. Agenda building. Dave, what do we have on tap?
Yeah, so Tammy, I would ask for two things. One, we'll be ready to give you some sort of a update on how the opening of the school year went. I'm sure you'll be interested in that information. And second, we do have a request from a community member that the board discuss a communication regarding high school sports and spectators. So that would be good to put on the agenda so that you can have that conversation as well.
Okay, great. Anything else that we need to add besides our regular committee reports and such? Okay, we've already done our executive session, so we don't need that. So I will entertain a motion to adjourn. George,
yeah.
Excellent. Thank you. A second, and by consensus, good. Liz, we're all in favor. Thank you. Have a good evening, everyone.